Hello everybody, welcome back to Beamng.Drive with, well, another challenge. Well, it was a continuation really, because a while ago I did speedruns on this road with the official game vehicles from Beamng, and I thought, what if I do it with mods? So I got a gaggle of mods, how you say gaggle, group, whatever, gaggle of mods, say it that way, and I wanted to see how fast they'll compare against the more official cars that were released with the game. And we start off with the humble Satsuma. It's not very fast. The racing version here, which is very loud, it only has less than 200 horsepower, and I still managed to crash it. Yeah, that's a wheel on the dirt. Probably the most pathetic crash I have had in quite a long time, because this is not exactly a quick vehicle. But I also messed up. This was not a good start to a recording session, I'll be honest. I was a bit wobbly, like a drunk, when driving this vehicle. Because it's weird, because it actually handled quite nicely. But, and I screwed up that, so not my greatest piece of Beamng, I guess. But the Satsuma, it's not bad. For what it is, it's not a performance car of any kind, really. This is a racing version, sure, but it's not exactly a Formula 1 car. It's not quick, which does make it easy to drive, mind you. It was very easy to drive despite my weaving around. It just wasn't quick. It does just about get over 100 miles an hour, over 105, but it really does struggle. But again, getting it stopped was nice and easy, so that's a plus. We go from one end of the spectrum, small family front-wheel drive compact, to the opposite end, the ETK. I think it's the 1800 series. This is what it's called, 1300 series. I don't remember the exact name. It's a SUV. It's also a very modern SUV, which means it should actually be pretty quick. It's powered by, I think it's one of the ETK K-series engines. So, it is pretty quick for an SUV. It's not Urus levels, but it's pretty speedy. That's 110 already in the SUV. Now, of course, SUVs are very heavy and very big, which means getting them stopped can be a little bit tricky, especially when the ABS decides to play funny buggers and launches you into a cliffside. Yeah. Not ideal, I will be honest. But again, it did not take long at all. Despite my slight stall of the line trying to get it in the manual gearbox, it was very easy to drive. The brakes were much better than I thought they would be. The handling was much better than I thought it would be, considering it's a barn. And it was very quick. It was far quicker, again, than I expected it. Over 130 miles an hour. Getting on the brakes, handbrake it, and yeah. Not ideal. We just sent a hood to orbit, and we took a fair chunk out of that vehicle. The brakes were very good, you're not getting me wrong. It was mainly the electronics that I couldn't actually take out. Well, there's probably a way to take them out, I just didn't bother with dealing with that right now. So, ABS is a pain because it freaks out and starts screaming you, saying, "Hey, you are braking too early!" And it freaks out, so it crashes you out, that's its main problem, the ABS. So I had to brake a lot earlier than I did normally, but it did at least get me stopped, and a little bit of a slide in the 1300 series, and pretty good at donuts as well, surprisingly. Oh no, I hope Toyota doesn't get angry at me for this one, because this is the AE86 on the street, doing some time trial speedrunning, which is technically racing. Oh no! Yes, this is the Toyota AE86, the Corolla thingy. And this is, I think it's the racing version of this. And as you can see, there's a lot of power. This is like the time attack version. It's absolutely mad. There's a lot of power and not a lot of grip. As you can see, I'm spinning the wheels in fourth gear. It's pretty much a drift car. And I actually thought I held it, and then just a little bit offline, and that's right into a wall. Well, rock, really. Basically a wall. That was painful. That was extremely, extremely painful crash for the A86, and that would be a common theme, really, for this vehicle. You have lots of power, And no, the grip. The wing is impressive. It doesn't do much, I'll be honest. I'm already sliding around. I couldn't put any power on. This vehicle has the capacity of no doubt over 170. But it has the traction of 130. And once you get on the brakes, you're so focused on not losing traction, you don't realize that you're a little late on the brakes, and then you have a bad day. A very, very, very bad day. And I mean, it took a long time to get a clean run. It wasn't the worst for a clean run, simply because you had to be so careful with it. Once you got to that point, once you realized that, it was pretty easy. That just meant you couldn't get any speed out of it. I tried. I really tried. I mean, it's not an easy car at all. And I just couldn't get the speed out of it. And eventually, there we go. That is a clean run for the AE86, but it did not like the whole idea of traction, really. It in traction at a disagreement, shall we say. Well, this is a Formula 1 car. And I've gone for the low drag top speed variant. They actually have a version called top speed, and it is quite quick. Alarmingly quick. It does break itself to pieces on the acceleration. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it properly destroyed itself on the launch. Now, that wasn't the end of the world. The end of the world is not some front canards falling off. The wing is a bit irritating because this car actually has functional downforce. So you want it to be intact, and you're going stupid fast. I'm talking stupid, crazy fast. That was 250 miles an hour. In 20 seconds? Even Group C cars couldn't do that. Those are the fastest circuit racers in the world. And you can see the aerodynamics causing some issues, shall we say. However, we did learn a party piece. It does know how to breakdance quite well. It just hops, hops, and hops. Because the wheel axles don't break, but the wheels do. So they're in all sorts of weird locations, and it doesn't know what to do. Yeah, it's a scary fast car. You have to launch it with such vigor to have the earliest crash in the world, pretty much. You see more breakdancing wheelie goodness. Some proper breakdancing there. But, you have to launch it at some speed because it's just so high revving. And you launch it in third gear and it still gets wheel spinning. But once you get it going, I get very lucky there being on the dirt, but I didn't get so lucky on the second time being on the dirt. It's just stupid fast. It's the fastest vehicle I've driven in this game that hasn't crashed the game. I have driven 800 miles an hour in this game with some old mods that don't work anymore, and that does actually break my computer, but this one can keep it under control. Now the car, once you get it right, it does annihilate everything. You look at that, that's 200 miles an hour, that's 220, 230, 246. Getting on the brakes luckily are very good. And I can just about get it stopped in time for the wall. I did break it afterwards by hitting the accelerator. Good job, me. But I did actually stop it in time, just. And yeah, it's a terrifying death machine that is just ludicrous to try. You see it there, that's just spinning his wheels like mad. It's insane. It's fast, but it's insane. This is one of the older mods I was mentioning earlier. It's the Gladiator. It's a, I think it's a Barracuda, if memory serves me correct, or maybe a Charger, don't remember exactly, but, anyway, it's the 60s muscle car. Now, this is a weird one, because this is the drag version. It doesn't look it, except for the tires and the NOS, but this is the drag version. And it isn't very quick for a drag car, I will be honest, because the Moonhawk did 174 miles an hour. It won the shootouts outright last time. This one isn't winning any shootouts, let me just put that out. It also has the terrible radiator. If you notice, the temperature skyrocketing up, yeah, it's a terrible car. I mean, I was expecting high praise from a dragster, as one would expect. And no, I mean, it gets up to some 140 miles an hour with the NOS, But you can see the temperature is through the roof, and then getting it stopped, well, that's typical dragster challenges. Yeah. That one wasn't ideal, but the temperature skyrockets. That was the biggest issue, because that actually hurts the car's performance. Getting into temperatures that high, it starts damaging the engine, which is not ideal for speedruns. Luckily, it lasts just long enough to get a good run out of it. But you can see it smoking out the tailpipe. And again, trying to get it stopped at 150. We do actually get it stopped at 150, which is surprising, with a bit of a bounce from the rear axle, but I was expecting better things from the dragster, I will be honest. Now this looks like a normal ETK K-Series, but it's not. You see, this has a massive twin turbocharged V12 in it. It's from the ultra high powered configuration. It's crazy top speeds that mod pack can reach. And you can see it's all-wheel drive, turbocharged, no NOS, because the mod did not exist when NOS was in the game, and it hasn't been updated since, but it's very quick. The normal K-Series police car did about 135, this is doing 167, and then the ABS, actually, the ABS did not help us, but we just about got it stopped, and then it gets very upset with me. But yeah, first try for the crazy fast V12 supercar, which is weird, I will admit. This is an Ibishu. It's a van. However, as you can see, it's not a normal van. No, this is a hill climb van. All-wheel drive, 2,500 horsepower, massive aero kit. I freaking love the Kashira. This is what it's called. It's one of my favorite mods ever. It's a van, it's got all sorts of configuration. This is just one of it. It's not even the craziest version. That comes later. And it's very fast. Unfortunately, it doesn't really have the tires to deal with 2,500 horsepower. It has four-wheel drive, and that didn't really seem to matter, considering I was spinning my wheels in third gear, running wide, and falling off the track. I mean, that's just a ton of wheel spin. A boatload of wheel spin for all-wheel drive. I thought I could still boot it, I couldn't. Once you get to about 4th, 5th gear, you're fine, but up until then, it's just undrivable, really, or unturnable. Then yeah, that claimed the victim again, going off on the dirt. That was a bad idea. That was a very, very, very painful accident for the van. It actually still had an engine, briefly, but, not really what you want to do in your van. And it was all about getting that traction right, because if you get understeer, you're dead, pretty much. At these speeds with this vehicle, understeer is a bad idea. Alright, that's just a fact. I get very lucky on a bump. That bump would be very noticeable later on. I get on the brakes at 178 miles an hour, and we're not stopping that. I mean, that's faster than the Moonhawk, and this has good brakes, but they're not that good. 178 miles an hour in a van. That did actually still work, but I'm not going to be bothering with that because it didn't really work very well, and I couldn't get the damn thing upright. But it was a beast of a car. It was an absolute beast of a van. Yeah, van, not even a car. But I did get a clean run on it, and it wasn't as fast as a 178 mile an hour run, obviously, because it crashed, but it made it over 150 miles an hour in a van. It was 2,500 horsepower, but it's still a van, and I think that is quite impressive. I know you're thinking, we just ran this vehicle, the Cashier, but this is electric. And electric cars, unless they have limiters on them, which this does not, can go as fast forward as it can in reverse. And if you're not aware of what I'm doing now, you've clearly never watched this channel before. Because I wanted to see how fast I could get my electric van to go in reverse. I never thought I would say that sentence in my life, but here we go. It's actually very quick. It's Tesla quick, only in reverse. And that has a numerous amount of challenges I've never faced before. First, the steering is now rear-wheel steering only, which means it doesn't exactly turn very well. because the geometry is all wrong for that. 2, it has even worse aerodynamics backwards. 3, just again, once you get up to high speeds, it doesn't, the slightest move of the steering just kills you. And like there, that was very much a death. And there is one other thing that I didn't realize. You see, I had to go through a lot of runs, because I kept crashing and crashing and crashing. That took me a long time to get to the point where I could actually get on the brakes. And once I got on the brakes, I realized another issue. The front brakes are bigger than the rear brakes on cars, but since we're going in reverse, the rear brakes are now more powerful than the front brakes, which basically is equivalent to locking up the rears, and then you spin. So every time you get on the brakes in this vehicle, you spin out. And that's a bad thing, and that leads to very many accidents when you're going 130 miles an hour in reverse. So I had to get clever. You see, this vehicle, it took about 15 or 20 minutes. I was determined to get this car right in reverse, goddammit. No matter how long it took, I wanted to try it. And it got up to some serious speeds. I mean, like, that's 140 miles an hour in reverse in a van. That's electric. So the way I stopped it, as you can see here, is I did a reverse 180 basically, and as soon as I went forward, I braked. And that got me stopped. That was the only way you could actually get this vehicle stopped. I couldn't figure out another way to do it. It took a lot of practice, but I did get it to work. And that was very, very rewarding. Now, it was my favorite vehicle to run today, because it was such a challenge. So, yeah, speedrun in reverse is not recommended, especially when you have to go around corners. Just FYI. But it is possible, if you can, do a reverse 180 at 140 miles an hour while flying towards a stone wall. We move to quite possibly the maddest vehicle in this entire list, which is saying something, because there's a few more coming along. But this is the Firehawk. 6-wheeled, 4-wheel steering at the front, and, yes, machine guns. Working, destructible machine guns. That I spawned in the vehicle. I did a terrible job of spawning it in, but I spawned in the vehicle. And, it will properly F that thing up. Even more than it already is, because it's stuck on a wall, but it's one of the maddest vehicles ever. You see, you just hit this button, and it just kills it. Yeah. It's awesome. Especially in this Spitfire form, which I have it in now. It also has a Spitfire engine in it. So I think it's 16 cylinders. Massively supercharged. Mentalist, really. So I thought I would give it a go on speedrun. Now, it's not actually going to be the fastest vehicle in the world. First off, it's very, very heavy. As you can clearly see by the lurching around, shall we say. And, well, the acceleration is good. That's actually quite good acceleration for a car of the time, but it's not really, record-shattering. It's pretty good, 140 miles an hour. I need to get it stopped, and it's very heavy, and that wasn't stopping. Yeah, that was very disappointing, I'll be honest. And it wasn't that hard to drive, if we're being honest. It's not the worst vehicle in the world, especially on the straights. There have been some truly terrible vehicles today on the straightaways. This one, not too bad, though. Traction, while not exceptional, is still good enough. And all in all, it's a pretty solid vehicle that looks fantastic. You just got the hardest thing was the brakes. The absolute hardest thing was the brakes. No matter what I did, it just did not want to slow down. But all of that, it doesn't really matter. I know the brakes are terrible. You can see the engine there. You know the brakes are terrible, but can you really complain? I mean, look at the interior. The interior is awesome. It's got a freaking gun sight on it because it's got actual working guns. Do I need to say that anymore? Unfortunately, I was so busy looking at the interior, I didn't really pay attention to my speed, and was going way faster than any other run so far, and that wasn't stopping. Nope, not stopping at all. Everything was broken on that one. So, it did take quite a while, but I did get a clean run out of the mighty Firehawk, and I must say, for the massive supercharger and the massive power, it's not as quick as you would expect. It's got the same power, roughly, as that crazy van, but, this is one of my favorite mods of all time, really. It's absolutely mental. I did just about get it stopped, by the way, but, I love it. It's one of my favorites, by far. Here we have a Pizima, and it actually looks fairly sensible, except for the little splitter there, and the fact that the, tachometer rev gauge thing goes, to 13,000, because there's a massive Formula 1 V10 in it. It's called the Pizima Pro car. It's absolutely mental. It's a completely fiberglass shell of a Pizima, and, it's, 1, ridiculously strong, and 2, ridiculously fast. And you would think with, 13,000 RPM, 700 horsepower, naturally aspirated V10, it would be undrivable even at 180 miles an hour, but no! It's actually pretty darn good, and you can see there, 1, the chassis is very strong, 2, even at 185 miles an hour, it was nearly stopped. That's very impressive, nearly stopping the car at 185 miles an hour. That's stupid, actually. And it actually did not take very long to get a clean run out of this car, but you would think it would be a very long time like the, electric van, but no, it was actually very civilized in the Pizima. I did have a very early off, but, those are the minor details, okay? It actually still worked after that minor off. So then I proceeded to immediately crash into a rock at 5 miles an hour, but that's not the point. It's sublime. It sounds amazing, it's stupid fast, and it can go around corners and stop, and you're not completely fearing for your life. That's not how this is supposed to work. And there you go, nice and easy on the brakes. Actually braked a little bit early, but I'm not gonna complain. There we go. The Pizima. Well, Pizima air quotes. Absolutely mental. And finally, we have the Piccolina. Now, the Piccolina earlier was okay, but it wasn't very quick. It was air-cooled. This one, though, is water-cooled, because it's not the Piccolina engine. This is the engine out of a SPR4. Yeah. So, it is it's basically the equivalent of putting a Porsche 911 engine into a Beetle. It's stupid fast, and you'd think it's completely undrivable, but it's not too bad. It's not very good, as you can see here, going off on the first corner, which kind of say that was briefly, a very tame off until I hit a rock and lost the entire engine. But it's actually not too terrible a car. You would think it would have like MG Metro syndrome, where if you turn the corner too much, it would spin off the road, and that is true to an extent, but it's not nearly as bad as I thought it would be. And then, of course, you have the sheer power-to-weight ratios off the scale in this car. I mean, that's 130, almost 100, that is 140 in a little car there. Now, I actually got on the brakes pretty good, unfortunately, just a little too late. And, just like the other Piccolina, I lost the entire front end. It still worked, because rear engine, but, just a fraction too late on the brakes is not ideal. Okay? But it did not take too long to get a clean run here with the Piccolina. And, again, it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be. It's manageable. You just have to be smooth with it. Smoothness is key. You can see there I got a twitch. If you're not smooth with it, but as you can see, it did not take very long to get a clean run out of this vehicle. It was actually pretty good, you know? I mean, all things here, it is a V6 powered rear-engined economy car, but you can just about get it under control, and it's not gonna be the end of all of time. So, yeah, the V6 SBR Piccolinia, how you pronounce it, is very fast, not as scary as you would think, and, well, certainly much more exciting to drive than the original, by far.